First and foremost, we identified 4 elements that are driving this inflation. First is high prices of food. Second is transportation. Third is insecurity. 4 is infrastructure. So if you found the devil in the room, all you need to do is to deal with the details. Madam talked about high cost of importation of food. Those foods we're importing, can they be produced there? If they are produced there, would it bring down the prices and the cost of those foods? And are we able to raise forex when we export them? The answer will be a resounding yes. Okay? And if you're saying that the places that you're producing food, most of them ungoverned, are now in the hands of non-state actors, are there alternatives that technology and infrastructure can give to you to still produce as much? The answer again is a loud yes. If today in Nigeria, and a lot of these foods we're importing are actually being produced not in open fields, but in greenhouses. Okay, I've gone to sites in Spain where you travel for 100 kilometers and you are traveling through greenhouses, and at the end of that road, you are hitting the seaports where they are harvesting and putting into ships to start shipping out. And this is where you now have the stories of GMOs and organic and all sorts. And then you talk about transportation. Can we also rein in transportation? What is now driving this high transportation cost? Are they not fuels and oils? Now, are there alternatives that we can also apply to be able to now rein in transportation cost? In other countries of the world, you have what they call the park and ride. Okay, where you now have where you can park your car within a location and then join the buses to go to where you're going to and then come back. And then it makes transportation a lot easier. In fact, houses are designed in such a way that you don't even need to drive your car. Okay, except you want to now, make it recreational. You're going to the city or you're going to whatever, or the countrysides. Now, the third will be insecurity, and I'd raised it. And I said, what's insecurity? If you had people engaged, okay, if you had people engaged into very meaningful activities that can be able to now generate a new life for them, there's nobody who wants to die. And if you make a conscious effort of listening to a lot of these boys or girls or whoever that has been caught in this act, they give you excuses that will touch your heart. Not an excuse, to do what they're doing, but most of them are left with no alternatives. So the point I'm trying to make is that everything that we see as a challenge, okay, can be solved. And if you want me to get a little more specific,
yes, be more specific.
Each time I come here to have a conversation, I yell science and technology. Okay, I am planting yams in my house where I live in Abuja, apart from my resource center, and I'm planting it in bags. Okay, come to my house now. You will see a minimum of 200 bags of yam in my house. I didn't say in my farm. This is my third, season of planting. And I have some other things, the peppers and all that, and they are growing and they are doing well. Now, that is the new thinking. In the UK, of all places, they call it urban agriculture, rooftop agriculture. People are planting veggies on top of their rooftops. Now, you have an agency which I keep also promoting each time I come here, called the Raw Materials Research Development Council. In 1 month of having a young man sitting as acting director, 1 month, he had unearthed 46 patents that is supporting practically every aspect, of our food system, our health system, our infrastructure system, our transport system, our energy system, to the extent that that institution has a modular refinery used to train students in ABU Zaria, functional. So the point I'm trying to make is that when Madam says we want to rein in liquidity, are we also now starving people of the funds, required funds that they will be need to now expand their operations? Remembering at one time you had what they call the SMILES or something, where banks were asked to keep 10% of your funds and they were now investing in the real sector. Now, I can tell you this for free. Part of why our economy is not growing is that we don't have access to patient capital. And until you introduce patient capital, it can't grow. The moment is a loan. Now, it's tied to a lot of things. Now, it doesn't give you that time to be able to now do the needful. Okay, do your studies, do your programs, which is where in the whole of the banking system in Nigeria, there's nobody that gives you grants. Every money you take is tied. And this is why the CBN, in trying to, when the ERGP came, a lot of people keep saying the CBN got reckless. The CBN didn't just get reckless. And I think there was a document. At one time, government couldn't fund the economy again if you were part of the ERGP labs. Now, there was an exposure of about 2 trillion that nobody could actually raise from anywhere. And the CBN needed to now start intervening in some of these areas. That those interventions went wrong does not mean that they were not needed. Okay, it was the management of those interventions that were the problems. Okay, if we're talking about the ways and means, I mean, that's not what we came here to talk about. How it was managed, who managed it, is out there in the public. Now, does it mean that if government needed to raise funding when Nigeria as a country was falling flat on practically every ESP evaluations that have been done? We were getting almost to the point where a minister had gone to somewhere and they said, give us your environmental sustainability plan to secure scorpions. This was the former Minister of Transportation, and he said, when they asked him the question, they thought the guy was joking. And that he didn't get that loan because he didn't understand why anybody would be telling him to secure scorpions on a rail track, to Niger Republic. And that nobody was ready to lend. At one time, nobody was ready to lend to Nigeria. So it's important that in looking at our country, we must also be able to look inwards. Today, a small basket of tomato is 8,000 naira.
Yep. You were complaining about that.
Now, 8,000 naira. A small basket of pepper is almost the same amount of money. And you use it in making one stew. Now, if you have a family of 6 and you're not director in CBN, okay, all right, and you have 10 children like most people like that do have, what do you think is going to be happening? So if we are going to be moving away, when we talk about the fiscal, we need to drill it down. Fiscal vis-a-vis, yes, what the fiscal authorities are doing, but fiscal vis-a-vis what the government is also doing to mine the resources within, its purviews. Because for me, if I were President Tinubu, with the way he is taking Nigeria, I would not only depend on my ministers anymore. I would want to interface with some of these critical agencies directly. Because a lot of these DGs and acting DGs have been in those systems for years and years, and they know where the bones are buried. They know what to do for us to be able to dig this country. I was in a meeting yesterday, I'm sorry to say this, a polytechnic, okay, had come to say that for 15 years, they were trying to interface with a government agency to scale up a sweet potato program they had been working on for 15 years. Potato. And I'm not just talking about growing it, I'm talking about the whole value processing chain. And this young man who had just taken over said, in the next 42 or 48 hours, I want that report on my table. Imagine if he had some direct access to where from time to time the president could be able to meet with critical agencies like that to now have a one-on-one with them.